Yeah, good morning, and that it's Uncle Lou here. That's right, it is me, Uncle Lou, and I'm live on LouTube for you with a new top 25 ranking. Today is Tuesday. The college football playoff rankings get updated tonight at 9 p.m., which is normally the time we start the call-in show on Tuesdays. So I'll go live around 8:45 or 9. We'll watch the playoff rankings reveal show, rigmarole. We'll talk about it, and then we will just roll right into the call-in show from there. I'll open up the phone lines, and we'll talk college football. So come hang out tonight at 9 o'clock, college football reveal show, and the call-in show. But here we go. Here's my updated top 25, and I've got some changes. I moved Georgia back to number 1. I haven't had Georgia at number 1 since, I think, week 3 of this season. I did start Georgia out at number 1, but you remember they were losing to South Carolina at halftime, had to come from behind to beat Auburn, and I slowly just started dropping Georgia down. I had them all the way down at number 8 at one point. They've worked their way back up now, and I swapped them in Ohio State. Last week I had Ohio State 1, Georgia 2. This week it's Georgia 1, Ohio State 2. Georgia has beat 2 top 15 teams in a row. They beat Missouri last week, 30-21, and then just absolutely destroyed Ole Miss this past Saturday, 52-17. So 2 good wins for Georgia. No matter how much you type about the schedule, the reality is both of those teams, Ole Miss and Missouri, are still ranked inside of every single top 15 ranking on planet Earth. So those are 2 top 15 wins for Georgia. For me, that moves them up ahead of Ohio State, who does have a good win against Penn State. Their next best win, I guess, would be Notre Dame. I just think Georgia has looked more impressive over the last couple of weeks than Ohio State, so I flip-flopped them. I also flip-flopped Washington and Florida State. I've just got major concerns, honestly, about both of these teams. This is probably not going to be the first time here in the last couple of weeks of the season that I flip-flop Florida State and Washington. They're good teams. They're undefeated. You don't get undefeated this late into the season if you're not a good team, but in comparison to some of the other teams that I consider to be the best teams in college football right now, I just don't think they stack up Washington. So I moved, or Florida State. So I moved them back to 4, moved Washington up to 3. But really, Washington, too, has showed some signs of weakness, and they've got a tough one this week. Washington is actually an underdog this week to Oregon State, believe it or not. Oregon State is favored by a couple of points at home this week against Washington. Florida just got done beating Miami. Not all that impressive, 27-20 against a not very good Miami team. That's coming off of an unimpressive win, in my opinion, against Pitt the week before. So I just think it makes sense. You can argue the order. I think it makes sense to have Georgia and Ohio State ahead of Washington and Florida State. If you still think Ohio State should be 1, I don't have an issue with that. I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong or you're stupid or whatever. And again, because I'm a Georgia fan, nobody takes anything I say seriously anyway, but I will remind you, I have not had Georgia number 1 in my ranking since week 3. I just feel like they've earned it at this point, given the way they performed the last 2 weeks in a row against top 15 opponents, Washington, Florida State, and then, of course, I've got Michigan at 5. I've explained this in detail multiple times over the last couple of weeks. Michigan's a really good team. They might be the best team in the country. And we're going to find out because they play Ohio State in the regular season, and I think they're going to beat Ohio State. I think Michigan's going to the playoffs. I think the playoff committee will have them ranked really, really high at the end of the season. I'm not putting Michigan in my top 4 because they cheated. It's just that simple to me. Now, I don't have any effect on the college football playoffs, so you can continue to get mad at me. You can continue to tell me you don't understand. There's no proof. And look, there's plenty of proof. All you've got to do is open your eyes, okay? Connor Stallions was on a different team's sideline wearing a disguise. Michigan cheated. For that reason, I'm not putting them in my top 4. It's that damn simple. I don't care how mad it makes you. This is my ranking. Feel free to make your own. We got Michigan at 5. They beat Penn State this past weekend, 24-15. They play on the road at a reeling Maryland team coming up this week. At number 6, the highest ranked 1-loss team in my ranking, Oregon. Look, this hasn't changed. Oregon, Texas, Bama. And the Bama fans can cry, piss, moan, and complain just like they did last week. The reality is you're not moving ahead of Texas in my ranking unless Texas loses a game. That's just all there is to it. It's literally that simple. I don't care how much you beat whatever. Who are you playing this week? Chattanooga. Alabama's game's not even on TV this week. I don't care how much you beat them by. Unless Texas loses, I'm not moving you ahead of Texas. I saw y'all play. They beat you, and y'all have the exact same record. Not moving you ahead of Texas. Oregon, why do I have them at 6 ahead of both Texas and Alabama? I think they're better than Texas and Alabama, or at least I think you can make that argument. They've got some good wins. They do have the loss to Washington. That's comparable, really, to Alabama's loss to Texas. But I think they've got better quarterback play. I just think they might be a better team. Oregon's, look, everybody can rank teams differently any way they want to. If you want me to make a ranking of who I just think the best teams are, now again, this creates a huge problem because this is 100% opinion. The only people that want you to rank teams based on opinion, or you just rank the top 4, that's 100% opinion, okay? I'll tell you who I think the best 4 teams are, but I'm telling you it's purely opinion, which is why I don't rank them that way. I try to use facts more than opinion, but I'll tell you who I think the best 4 teams in the country are right now in no order. This is who I think the best 4 teams are. Georgia, Bama, Michigan, Oregon. That's who I think the best 4 teams are. Do you want me to rank Alabama and Oregon ahead of Ohio State? Ohio State's undefeated. Alabama and Oregon have a loss. Sorry. Just because I think those teams are better than Ohio State, number one, it doesn't mean that they are. And even if they are, it can't be proven unless they play. And even if they play, it can't be proven because ask Alabama fans if they're better than Texas. They will tell you yes, even though we watched them play and Texas beat them. So there's just no way to prove these are the 4 best teams. There's no way to prove that. So in terms of ranking teams, for me, record, so wins and losses, right? Quality wins, what are your best wins? How are you handling subpar opponents, right? All of that gets baked in, and this is what I come up with. People complain every week, they'll complain again. I really don't care. Oregon 6, Texas 7, Alabama 8. I've got Louisville at 9. Again, do I think Louisville is the 9th best team in the country? No. But this isn't a ranking of purely my opinion. There is some opinion baked in, obviously, because I've got Louisville ahead of Missouri, for example. But anyway, if it was my opinion, I think Missouri would beat Louisville. They played tomorrow. But I don't have Missouri ranked ahead of Louisville because Missouri's got 2 losses. So anyway, Louisville 9, Missouri 10. Louisville, lucky, extremely lucky to escape last week with a win over a terrible Virginia team, 31-24. Missouri, on the other hand, absolutely destroyed Tennessee. That rounds out my top 10. Number 11, I've got Oregon State. No, I don't think they're 11th best team in the country, but look at the record. Look who they've beat. Look who they lost to. Yada, yada, yada. I've got them at 11. I've got Penn State at 12. I think Penn State's probably one of the best 7 or 8 teams in the country, but the reality is they're 3rd in their division. They've lost to the 2 best teams they've played, and their best win is what? West Virginia? So the fact that I think they're one of the best 7 or 8 teams is not enough for me to rank them 7 or 8. I've got them at 12. They got to start winning some bigger games. I've got Ole Miss at 13. They got beat down by Georgia this past weekend, so I dropped them down a few spots, but I do still think they're a top 15-ish type team. I'm having a hard time with Ole Miss and LSU, and you can easily flip-flop those. It's not going to hurt my feelings because LSU, or Ole Miss beat LSU, but I do think LSU is probably a better team right now than Ole Miss. But again, they played. We saw it. We all know what happened. I've got Ole Miss at 13. Their only 2 losses are to Bama and Georgia. LSU at 14. I've got Oklahoma all the way up at 15. Where did I have Oklahoma last week? 17. So they moved up a couple of spots. Oklahoma did after beating a pretty good West Virginia team 59-20, at least a surprising West Virginia team 59-20 this past weekend. At 16, I've got Utah. They caught another loss, this time to Washington. Close game, 35-28. But losing close doesn't do you much good when you've got 3 losses. So I've got Utah all the way down at 16. Arizona, I've got at 17. To me, they're one of the most surprising teams this season. I think Louisville, Missouri, Arizona. I think these are just almost out of the blue type of teams, but I've got Arizona all the way up at number 17. Let's see what they did this week. Colorado, that's right. Last second field goal win over Colorado. God, how did I forget that? An amazing moral loss for Colorado there this week. Shout out to the Deion Stans on that. I've got Tulane at 18, my highest ranked group of 5 team. They still only have 1 loss. Right behind them, I've got James Madison, who of course is undefeated. And then I've got Notre Dame coming in at number 20. They had a bye week this past. Remember, Notre Dame had 2 bye weeks because they played in week 0. If you play in week 0, you end up with 2 bye weeks for obvious reasons. So they didn't play this past week, but I've got them at 20 coming off of that loss to Clemson a couple of weeks ago. They play Wake Forest this week, which is interesting only in that it's Sam Hartman with Notre Dame playing against his old team, Wake Forest. But Notre Dame at 20. I've got Kansas State up at number 21, North Carolina at 22, Tennessee at 23, Iowa at 24, and Oklahoma State at 25 to round things out. This will be Tennessee's last week in the top 25 rankings. They got destroyed by Missouri this past week, and they're about to get euthanized Saturday at 3:30. 3:30. Yeah, Saturday 3:30 by Georgia. Tennessee has to play Georgia this coming weekend. Not going to be pretty. Georgia will roll. But there you go, the Uncle Lou top 25 for week 12. Wow, college football season's flying by. We've got this weekend. Next weekend, believe it or not, already is Thanksgiving and rivalry weekend, and then we get championship weekend and selection Sunday, and then early signing day, and then bowl season and playoffs and national championship and yada, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Come hang out tonight at 9 o'clock for the playoff reveal show, and then we will open up the phone lines, and I'll take some phone calls, and we'll talk college football. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hit the thumbs up if you did, and have a good morning.